Coverage of the Tyneside manhunt, of course. You'll find it on our website, all the analysis, the maps, any numbers you need as well to phone in, and if you know anything about what's going on, you can find it all there. In the meantime, Charlotte's got the rest of the day's news. Charlotte.
Thanks, Colin. British troops fighting in the volatile Sangin area of Helmand are to be withdrawn this autumn. The district has seen British troops involved in some of the fiercest fighting in Afghanistan, with nearly a third of British deaths occurring there. American troops will take over operations, as Alistair Bunkle reports.
It's got more than usual.
Northumbria Police have 4,200 officers, and it's estimated that around 40 of those are trained in firearms. But with the help of the 5 other forces working on this operation as well, there could be up to 200 firearms officers in total. Now, each of these officers is well equipped. They carry around 3 stones of weight in gear. And if we look at the images, then the almost paramilitary mode of dress stands out. The officers wear coverall suits. Now, padding in the knees and the elbows help if they need to kneel for long periods. Over that, there's built-in protection from a ballistic vest lined with Kevlar inserts. They cover the body's internal organs, and the arms and legs are exposed so the officers can be more mobile. In addition to the vests on their head, there is a ballistic helmet, and that's webbed inside to be resistant to the highest level of gunfire. Carrying an assortment of weapons helps deal with most threats, and their main firearm is a carbine known as an intermediate weapon. Normally a couple of feet long, the most common version is likely to be the Heckler and Koch MP5. That's derived from a machine gun. A more manageable alternative is the smaller handgun, and that's likely to be a semi-automatic pistol. Some will also carry a yellow taser stun gun. These generate 50,000 volts of electricity to allow officers to incapacitate the suspect. That's without seriously harming them. Also useful are distraction devices like stun grenades and also thunder flashes, and that helps with rapid entries into buildings. Ballistic shields offer protection for officers faced with gunfire. And finally, communications equipment, of course, is vital. They'll have earpieces to follow directions from the control room, as well as covert microphones and also encrypted radios on their body armour.
Charlotte, thanks very much indeed. Well, Peter Kirkham. A very good morning to you watching Sunrise. Colin Brazier here with you through until 9 this morning. Still to come, we've got a review of the morning's newspapers. That will be in the company of John Gaunt, as you see. But first, armed police are continuing their hunt for the fugitive gunman. We're going to be talking about that to John Gaunt in just a second. But first, Charlotte's got the rest of the day's news.
Thanks, Colin. British troops are to be pulled out of one of the deadliest areas of Afghanistan. The Defence Secretary is expected to announce that the UK will hand control of...
Charlotte, thanks very much indeed. Well, as promised, John Gaunt's here to take us through the morning's newspapers. John, a very good morning to you.
Morning, Colin.
And you're going to start with the Moat case.
Well, of course, it's the biggest story around today. And the Sun's got this exclusive letter, this 49-page letter, and they've got some more excerpts. I mean, you've just got to read it, really, you know, the workings of this madman's brain.
Tell you what, it's quite cogently written, isn't it?
It is.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, and I'll tell you what, I mean, I was talking to my wife last night and I was watching Sky, and they were saying, you know, don't search your outbuildings. But imagine if you were living in that area, you had children, put them to bed. I mean, you'd be absolutely petrified. And whether you'd send your children to school this morning, you know, like the police are saying, oh, everything going back to normal. It is very worrying. What's most worrying, though, is why was this madman ever released from prison? This is another example of 2 things. One, playing Russian roulette with all our safety. It's normally paedophiles they release so that they can try again with our children. But secondly, also a society's attitude to domestic violence. I mean, this man is a thug. This man threatened his wife. The only advice she got, or his girlfriend, was to move house.
That doesn't make him unique in Britain's prison population, does it?
No,
and
it
also,
doesn't.
John, how many people will go inside and find that when they come out, even only 18 weeks later, that your partner's gone off with somebody else? It must be quite common. You can't legislate
No,
against
and
that.
it must be difficult, of course. However, it doesn't justify him going to get a shooter and killing people. I mean, the bottom line is this man, there should have been more supervision. The warning should have been heeded.
It all costs money.
Well, it does, yes, but this woman should have been protected. And now, I also can't understand why they haven't found him. I always hesitate to criticise the police, but it seems bizarre to me that they haven't tracked him down yet. It seems really bizarre.
I'll put that point to Peter Kirkham, when a former police officer who sits where you are in the next hour. I'll put that point to him, see what he says. I've got a feeling I know what he's going to say.
And everyone seems to know what the denouement of all this is going to be, and it's all pretty frightening. I just hope they catch him before he kills anybody else.
OK. Teachers are going to get new powers in the classroom.
Yeah, and about time too. It's a good idea, this. This is, you know, so that teachers can intervene, they can use reasonable force to take an unruly pupil out. Also, they're going to have anonymity, so they get these horrible malicious cases against teachers. Hopefully it'll cut down on that. But what caught me was this a piece in the Times. It says, Malcolm Trobe, Policy Director at the Association of School and College Leaders, says, what is reasonable force will obviously be determined by the law and by the courts. Our advice is still to be extremely cautious under these circumstances. And then Francis Gibbs done a commentary. Says, it's not a question of bringing back the cane, the blackboard rubber, or even a quick cuff. Well, I think it probably is. I had a teacher, he was a Welsh teacher, and he could hit us with the blackboard rubber. Me and my mate Chris Dickey, he could hit us without turning away from the blackboard. You know, he knew which one it was.
I'll tell you what,
bounced off your
forehead. He wishes he still could.
Yeah, that's true. Do you know what? The balance has gone much too far towards the pupils. Parents have got to support teachers, and actually I think teachers should be able to manhandle, and I'm also in favour of the cane as the ultimate deterrent. I know it's a very old-fashioned view, but we didn't have the kind of problems we've got now in schools.
News at Sky.com, if you agree with John Gaunt or you think he's talking rubbish.
Charlotte probably thinks I do, but there we are. She's very quiet this morning.
I'm not sure where you're going to stand on this, John Gaunt, actually, because you might be a surprising libertarian when it comes to legalisation of drugs.
Yeah, or maybe not. Jane Asher, the actress, well, even the hardest drugs ought to be illegal. Just proving again, whilst, you know, actors and actresses should act and prance about on the stage and on celluloid, but shut up on matters of public concern. Who cares what Jane Asher thinks? Hey, love, back in the kitchen, bake another cake. Because that's what you're famous for. And going out with Paul McCartney.
The kitchen bit.
No, she's just outrageous, this woman. Listen to this stupid comment she says. Don't get me started on the whole drugs thing. They should legalise the lot of them, as far as I'm concerned. And this is the best line. That's the only hope, but it's far too complex an argument. Really, Jane, obviously for your little pea brain. I mean, the bottom line is we do not need public figures like her making ridiculous statements like this unless she can back it up with a proper argument. I'll have the argument with her if she can, but clearly she can't. So make the cake, leave the drugs alone, Jane, and you're no longer going out with Macca. It's no longer the 60s. It's no longer the big dope joints in India.
I'd just like to make it clear to whichever lawyers representing Jane Asher that my laughter there was only a reflection of my sense of comic timing, not agreement with what John Gaunt was saying. So, hosepipe ban, is that the story you've got for us?
Well, this is a great story, isn't it? Water crisis as Britain hots up. You're telling us as well on Sky today it's the driest start since 1929.
In the South East.
Yeah, really. You know, they're just an excuse. They come out with this nonsense. If they didn't waste so much water... You know, where was I the other day? I was in a little village in Northamptonshire, and it was like a fountain coming out of the floor. I mean, out of the road. The bottom line is they waste too much, they charge you too much. It's the best utility to invest in, just like in Monopoly, because not only do they charge you when you drink it as it comes out the tap, they then charge you when you get rid of it as well. Brilliant, isn't it, for sewage? Basically, there's no way. We're an island. There's no way we should have a water shortage. There's no way on God's earth. Invest the money in desalination plants. Very briefly, talking of toilet waste, story in the Sun. No, this is brilliant. This is Al Murray. This is just a fabulous story. Al Murray, the pub landlord, he is the great patriot, of course. That's his whole act. But he's basically given us 5 reasons why we should back the Germans. I won't go into them because you should buy the Sun just for this article alone. It is so funny. But the bottom line, this is the killer punchline. He says, so he justifies why we should support the Germans tonight. Then he says, none of the above would apply if it was France. I am not mental. Which I think is brilliant. It's a very funny article. John, more in the next hour, but thanks for now. John Gaunt. You're watching Sunrise on the Family Affairs blog. The Ministry of Defence. Much more on the Tyneside manhunt in just a moment. But first, Charlotte's got the rest of the day's news.
Colin, thank you. Teachers are to be given extra powers to deal with disruptive pupils as part of an attempt to improve school discipline. The government's issuing guidelines that courts should allow some physical...
Just time to take you through some of the front pages. Here's how they look, and it's the manhunt in Northumbria that's leading...